Welcome to the Beware the Moon podcast. My name is Hannah. Today we are going to be talking about Lee Cronin's The Mummy. So, I am not going to lie. This was not on my radar. I just hear The Mummy and I kind of tune out because, like, Brendan Fraser's The Mummy is, like, The Mummy in my mind. I know. I'm the worst horror fan ever for that. And the original, like, I've seen it, like, once, probably when I was, like, 10. And so, like, it didn't really interest me then. You know, probably would be more interested to see it now. But, basically just because of the fact that this was, like, The Mummy, I was like, oh, that's stupid. I don't need to watch it. I was very wrong, and I'm so glad I went and saw it. This movie slaps. This movie goes hard. If you enjoy the new Evil Dead series that's been coming out, like Evil Dead 2013 and Evil Dead Rise, there's literally no conceivable reason I can think of that you would dislike this movie. The director and the writer is Lee Cronin, and it has been confirmed by him in an interview that this literally takes place in the same universe as Evil Dead. Which, when a lot of the stuff starts going down, like, it makes a lot of sense. And personally, I love this movie. Like I said, I don't think that there's any conceivable reason to dislike it if you really like Evil Dead 2013 and Evil Dead Rise. So it was a pleasant surprise to me, who Evil Dead 2013 is one of my favorite horror movies. It was a pleasant surprise to me to go see it and be basically given more of that. So that's kind of like my review. If you're like, I don't know what that is, I don't know what that's about. And by that, I mean like the new Evil Dead series that's been happening in the last decade. Basically, like, it's a lot of fucked uppery. Like, you're getting, like, in the Evil Dead movies, you're getting, like, eyeball trauma and, like, people peeling things off, and, like, it's just a lot of trauma, which, again, like, and not, like, it's not like torture porn. Like, it's not like Saw. This is like an entity that's doing this to these people and creating these weird bodies in these weird spaces. And so, like, to me, it's completely different. I don't like torture porn, but this is not that. Again, it's like entity possessing, etc., etc. So, if you like those movies, definitely check this one out. If you've never seen those movies, again, it's all those things. However, I would say, that there is like, this is not a spoiler. The little girl, the daughter of the family, the oldest daughter, gets kidnapped right at the beginning of the movie. And so, like, we do see some of those kidnapped sequences, like what's happening to her as she's kidnapped. And those are really, like, realistic. And, like, shout out to the actress who plays her because she does a phenomenal job. But those can be very, like, traumatizing and triggering if you're someone who's ever been kidnapped. Personally, I have, so, like, it was a little, like, I mean, I've had 30 years almost at this point to deal with it and kind of get over it, and, not get over it, because you never really get over it, let's be real, but, just to kind of, like, make sure I don't get triggered, and to, like, work through that trauma. And I have done a lot of work on that, luckily, or else this movie would have really messed me up. I think 10 years ago it might have messed me up, if I had seen it 10 years ago. But again, I've had a lot more time to work on it, and a lot more time to work on my psychology, internal psychology, that is. So, like, it didn't mess with me, but it could with you, if you've ever had some kind of trauma in regards to, like, a kid being captured and kidnapped, and, like, it is very stressful. It's one of the most horrifying part of the movies, in my personal opinion, because it's unfortunately realistic, that part. So just a warning on that. I was like, why does this guy who plays Charlie, look familiar? It's the same guy who plays the boyfriend in Midsommar. And he's the only actor that I recognized in this movie. Everyone else, I had no idea who they were. So there's that for you. And again, this is directed by Lee Cronin, who did Evil Dead Rise. And so, like, it's a lot of that vibe. Just, like, crazy shit happening, and you're, like, disgusted by the horror. And it is horrifying. There are some really cool shots in this film that I'm just like, oh, I love that. So, that's it for the spoiler free. If you are interested, go watch it and come back. If you're like, whatever, I don't care, just spoil it for me, guess what? That's what we're doing now. So I only went and saw this movie once. I usually like to watch a movie at least twice before I review it. But unfortunately, with all the cool movies coming out next month, I really can't spend the money to go see this again before I review it. Or I totally would. I absolutely would go spend my money and watch this again. This movie's, like I said, just phenomenal to me. That said, I'm not gonna get everything on point exactly. Like, I'll get the general story beats, but I can't go into detail like I usually do with movies that I've seen twice and like have a written out script for. So basically the story starts off, it's this family living in Cairo, Egypt, like actually Cairo, Egypt. Actually, cancel that. The cold open is a family in Cairo and they're driving back home and the mom, like, first of all, I should have said this in the non-spoiler, but the writing for this movie is so good and the characterizations that are happening, the non-verbal stuff is really good. So like this family, they're in the car. It's a mom, a dad, and their 3 kids. It's 1 girl and 2 boys. And they're listening to like some poppy kind of song and the dad is singing along and he's encouraging his kids to sing along and the mom just like shuts off the radio and she's like, "You're giving me a headache." And so like right away you're like, I don't like this bitch, which valid. And again, good characterization because we kind of see like her family is not a priority to her. Like, and not to say that like, I mean, like, if you're having a headache, like, that's one thing, but, like, the way she does it is really bitchy, and it's, like, unnecessarily bitchy. So then they get home, and the canary, their daughter's pet canary is dead, and it's, like, spewing blood out of its mouth. And the mom crushes it in her hand to kill it. Sorry, that was my dog just flipping her ears around. Okay, she's done being extra. So the mom crushes the canary in her hands, and you're like, oh, God. And, like, the little girl was like, "Mommy, save her." And that's what she did. So you're like, all right, this fucking bitch should do this right in front of her kid. So then they go downstairs. There's like a secret top of like a pyramid is what it looks like. And they go down into this like underground tunnel and there's like a crypt there. And she's like, "We need to check him." And the husband is like, "Okay." And she's like, "Just like a crack. We can't, completely open it up." So he opens it up a bit. And it's like, this sarcophagus is made of like obsidian or some shit. Like it's this big black stone is what this like mummy's, tomb is. And so it gets lifted by these big hooks and one of the hooks swings loose and catches the dad in the throat and like hangs him basically. And then it's like Lee Cronin's the mummy. So then we see like the family that the movie is like centered around. It's this American family where the dad is a journalist and he's here reporting. I'm so sorry, I had to stop because my dog is like, she's playing with a squeaky toy. She's being like so extra right now. I have 3 and right now it's Blue, who's being super, super extra. Anyways, so this dad, he's a reporter and he's reporting like, I'd have to watch it again to know the exact connections. And I do think that they say it later in the movie, but he's talking about like some kind of like flooding and like, watering fields situation. So I'm not entirely sure what the deal is with that, but he's like explaining this thing that like, of course I wasn't really locked into, but it comes back later on. And, you see he's got 2 kids and he's got a wife. The wife is pregnant and his oldest kid is a daughter and she goes out to the back garden to play. And so the mom goes off for work. He gets a phone call. He's going to take a job in New York. And like at this point, like, again, like the script is really good because they've established already that they lived in Albuquerque, New Mexico. He wants a job in New York because that would be a better paying job. So he gets this job offer, and as he's talking to his wife on the phone, he notices something weird in his daughter's playhouse. And so, or dollhouse, and he like opens it and there's tons of candy wrappers. And he's like, "Babe, have you been giving Katie candy?" And she's like, "No." And immediately he knows something is off, which with the whole Athena situation that's going on, and if you don't know about that, don't worry about it. But like, there's just so much of like, parents really need to get on the ball with like explaining to their kids what is safe and what is not safe and like non-safe adults and non-safe kids. Like really, really, really guys, please, for the love of God, for the love of your kids, explain to your kids that secrets are not okay because secrets are unsafe. So the dad grabs these candy bars and goes to the brother and he's like, what's up with this? And the younger brother is like, she gave me some if I promise not to tell you. And he's like, tell me what? And he was like, about Katie's secret friend in the garden. And so we find out that Katie has a secret friend that visits her in the garden. And this secret friend is named Layla. And so out there currently, like when the dad is taking this phone call, she's out there and she's waiting for this friend to show up. And the friend doesn't show up, but Layla's mom shows up, and you don't get to see her very clearly, but to me it was very obvious that it was the mom from the opening. And she's like, oh, Layla couldn't come to play today. I'm so sorry. Did she tell you anything about me? And she was like, well, she said that you're like a magician. And she was like, would you like to see a magic trick? And so she shows her a magic trick and then gives her something and then gives her a nectarine, and a bug comes out of the nectarine and goes down Katie's throat and like basically immobilizes her, which, ew, I'm already vomiting. That's horrible. And then Charlie is the dad. He's like desperately looking for Katie, and he goes out to the garden and he can't find her, but he sees that like there's a spot in the fence that's been opened up. So he crawls through it and he can see some lady running away with Katie. And of course it's Layla's mom. And so he runs after her, and this big sandstorm starts kicking up and he can't find her. And so like obviously, Katie is gone. Him and his wife, Larissa, decide to go to the local police, and that's where we meet this really cool detective. Her name is Detective Dalia Zaki. They call her Zaki. And apparently this lady is from Moon Knight, which is not a series I've seen because I don't have a Disney Plus and I won't get one. But so this detective gets pulled into this case because her older detective, her senior, is like, you speak good English, right? And she's like, yeah. So he pulls her in, and the parents are explaining to her like, yeah, we found these rappers, blah, blah, blah. And so she tells her senior detective, like, it looks like it could be a case where they were grooming. And for those who don't know, who absolutely should know, grooming is basically something someone does when they are grooming a child to be, touched inappropriately or taken. And so, she says, it looks like the child was maybe groomed, and he's like, or they're trying to cover something up. And at this point, the dad knows enough of their language that he's like, you don't think I don't know what you're talking about? I didn't fucking hurt my daughter. And something that I skipped over that actually comes back later, and again, this is just good writing, is his daughter's part of like, basically like Egyptian Girl Scouts. And part of being part of Egyptian Girl Scouts is they're learning Morse code. And so he's helping her with that. So like, clearly he does know some of their language. And so he's like, do you think I did this to myself? And he's or to my own daughter, and he's pissed. And he's like, are you gonna fucking help us or not? And then like, cut to 8 years later, and Charlie is working in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And it's very obvious, like, if you've ever even watched true crime, documentaries or anything like that, like, why he's not in New York. Like, he already accepted the job in New York, but obviously because his daughter's been taken, he decided to go somewhere that was familiar. Because living in New Mexico, they actually live with his wife Larissa's mother-in-law, or his wife Larissa's mother. It's his mother-in-law. They call her abuelita, which I know abuela is Spanish for grandma. They call her abuelita. Don't at me on that when I start calling her abuelita, okay? So, they live with her, and we can see that, like, Katie had a room there. And later on it's explained, like, they moved into this house with abuelita, and Katie was excited because, like, this was her mom's room growing up. And so, like, this is a house that Katie would know. So if Katie ever magically made her way back to the States, she would know where to find them. Versus if he had taken a job in New York, she wouldn't fucking know where to look for him. So, this is like a common tactic people common tactic people like have when they, when their kid goes missing. Like, they want to be somewhere that's familiar to the kid, where the kid knows where to find them. So anyway, long story short, I'm cutting out some bits, but that's fine. There's this plane that crashes, in Egypt, and this plane, like, shoots out this giant sarcophagus. And the sarcophagus gets taken to, like, a museum of some sort, where they're opening it and they're looking inside of it. And there's they open it and there's this mummy inside, and they're taking all these wrappings off this mummy, and it starts breathing again. And so they're like, holy shit, this person's alive. And obviously it's Katie. So, parents get a call from Detective Zaki. They fly back to Cairo to see their daughter. And this doctor is like, so she's had a lot of trauma. She's doing a lot of random vocalizations and a lot of random movement, so it's best to keep her sedated, and it's best to take her home to a familiar environment, and that might help some of her trauma. Okay? He does not warn them that her skin is literally, like, so pale. He tells them that she's malnourished. He doesn't warn them that, like, she looks like a fucking, like, I don't even know, part goblin. Like, she looks atrocious. Like, just seeing that as a parent is traumatizing. And it's so unfortunate because, like, the reality is, like, even if your kid does come back to you, like, they're not going to be the same person. Like, it sucks because, you know, the kid gets taken and they're one person and they're this innocent, loving, happy child. But if they ever do, in fact, come back from, like, a situation like that, they are completely different. And so they are, like, traumatized by that. Plus, it's, like, so bad for Katie. Like, so bad. And, like, we see later, it's because, like, obviously she's being possessed by an evil spirit. But they're, like, they need, like, a minute to go calm down and everything. And he talks to Detective Zaki again. And he's like, I remember you. You were there that night 8 years ago when Katie first went missing. And he was like, are you actually gonna fucking help now? Like, are you actually gonna do something? And he's like, I need to know what happened to my daughter. So Detective Zaki is, like, committed to looking into it, right? Then they fly Katie home. How the fuck they do that? I have no clue. Because this girl needs sedation. And it's like, I mean, when I flew to Rome, it was like 9-hour flight. So, like, this is at least a 10-hour flight that they're undertaking with, like, this severely malnourished, like, psychologically disturbed human being. Like, how, I have a lot of questions on that. Like, how did they get her back to the United States? I have no clue. Anyway, they get her back to the US and, like, they're reintroducing her to Abuelita and Sebastian, the younger brother. And they're like, this is your sister. And her name is Maud. And so, like, they get her inside, which, like, they're taking this wheelchair up the stairs, and it's like, clunk, clunk, clunk. It's like, and it's not like a straight staircase, like straight down from the first floor to the second. It's like crooked upwards, and you're just like, all right, maybe y'all should have called someone to have somebody install a lift or something, because wow, it's fucking awkward to just, like, clunk, clunk, clunk her up the stairs. And also, like, she's still really frail, so, like, maybe not the best idea. Like, I get that you can't do anything different, but, like, you could have before you got to this point. Anyway, so Abuelita is, like, in there and, like, I think praying for her is what she's doing. And Katie, like, leans forward and, like, headbutts Abuelita. And that's, like, the first time that, like, all right, something is really, really fucked up. And as if that's not, like, okay, we need to get her some, like, help, which, like, all right, I get that, like, she's doing erratic movement because of her malnutrition or whatever the fuck the doctor explained it away by. But at the same time, like, this girl has some psychological trauma. Obviously, they literally found her, like, wrapped in wrappings and put in, like, a mummy sarcophagus. Don't you think she needs a little bit more psychological help than whatever the fuck you're providing her? Like, don't you think she needs, which the dad is like, hey, we're in over our heads, especially after what happens, like, the next day. He's like, we're in over our heads, and maybe we should move her to a facility. And the mom's like, you think I can't take care of my own daughter? No, you can't. You've never dealt with this shit before, okay? And you don't know how to deal with it. Why do you think that you could deal with that and it'd be okay for Katie? Like, Katie is the one who is suffering, bro. Because you're too prideful to just go seek psychological help, which she clearly needs, because, like, what the fuck even happened to her? You have no idea. Like, just the situation she was found in is like, oh my gosh, she needs so much psychological help, bro. But you're gonna be stubborn and basically stupid and prideful and not get her the help she needs because of that? And, like, her mom's a nurse, so like she can deal with some of it, but like, holy shit, woman, you can't deal with all of that. You need like someone who's like super, super experienced in psychology to help you with whatever the fuck Katie is experiencing. Anyway, rant over on that. But that night, Katie goes missing and she's like crawling in between like the crawl space of the house, and they catch her like eating a scorpion, and they make her vomit, the scorpion up. All this nasty shit onto the carpet, and like Sebastian can see it, and he's just like, ugh. So then like, before this, right, Maud goes into Sebastian's room and she's like, there's weird noises, and he's like, it's just coyotes, and she's like, I'm scared. So he lets her, he has a bunk bed, so like she stays on the top bunk that night. So then she's hearing thumping, and she wakes Sebastian up, and she's like, Sebastian, there's weird noises, and he goes, I told you it's just coyotes, and she goes, it's in the house, and he's like, they can't get in the house, which is like the funniest line. Also, that plasticky smack sound was my dog punching my water bottle because she likes to eat them. She's being so extra today. I've been gone from the house for like 3 days, so she's like, hello? Anyway, by gone, I mean I was house sitting. Anyway, can you not do that right now? Thank you. Love you. Anyway. So that's like, it cracked me up because I'm like, that's so funny. Like, and so realistic. Like, if, like, my brother would not be able to process my words if I woke him up in the middle of the night like that. But he grabs his baseball bat, and so like, they're like, Katie's in the walls. And so the parents go looking for her. Like I said, she's eating a scorpion. They make her vomit it up in her room. And then the next day, the mom and Abuelita are trying to like, kind of groom Katie a little bit. She's got these nasty ass, long ass fingers and long ass toenails. Fingernails, not fingers. Fingernails and toenails. And so the mom is like trying to clip them, which like, the way she's going about clipping them, not wise. Like, I have really big, really thick toenails, and you gotta kind of do one side and then connect them in the middle from the other side. She's not doing that. She's going straight down the middle, which is like, girlfriend, not a good idea, especially in a horror movie, my guy. So, of course, she does that. And, instead of, like, clipping the toenail, she, like, rips the toenail off, which I expected. What I didn't expect is for her to rip it all the way up her fucking shin. Like, it rips the toenail off, and then it grabs the skin and rips all the way up the shin, which is some Evil Dead shit. I fucking loved it. So then, Katie freaks, throws Abuelita and mom. They're like, Charlie calling for the dad. He goes in there. He goes looking for Katie. He finds her, and she has grabbed the fireplace poker, and she is digging the fireplace poker into her shin, which again, that's some Evil Dead shit. And if you were like skeptical about how this was kind of like the Evil Dead, that's it. That's like peak Evil Dead shit right there. And we're not even done with the Evil Dead shit. So there you go. So that night, that's when Charlie's like, hey, maybe we should consider putting her in her place. Mom's like, no. And so, the next day they're going to school, and, the dad, so like, their daughter's kidnapping was like a huge deal, like on the news, both in Egypt and in America, and just like internationally. And so like, they tell him like, we're not going to release to the press that we found Katie, not for a while. Like, we want her to acclimate first and get kind of back to normal and get your family back to normal first. And so he takes the kids to school the next morning, and as he's taking them, they open the like gate to the house. And there's coyotes. They say they're coyotes. Those are not fucking coyotes. Those are some bougie ass, punk ass, like cool looking coyotes. Coyotes don't look like that. Coyotes look like they came out of a dumpster, dude. They look like maybe they're starving to death. They look like your cousin who lives in a trailer park and has 4 baby mamas. Like, that's how coyotes be looking, okay? Like, these are like straight wolves, like New Mexico wolves standing out there, but they call them coyotes. And there's literally like 4 of them standing there growling at the car and the house. And they look at these wolf coyotes, and the brother's like, fuck. And then the younger sister goes, you said fuck. And I was like, I love this. Like, this movie has like just tiny instances of like realism and humor that I absolutely love. So anyway, he takes the kids to school, and he decides to like seek out a college professor, I can't believe I said that, professor who's like a professor of archaeology. And he takes, so like when he had picked up like the skin wrapping off the bathroom floor, he noticed there were markings on it and he kept peeling away these skin wrappings. There was more markings, more markings, more markings. So he takes them to this archaeological professor and he's like, I'm Charlie Cannon, you know, I'm a reporter. And the professor's like, about my tax evasion. He's like, I don't care about your tax evasion, professor. I want to know about these markings. And he's all like, where did you get these? This is crazy. This is like before hieroglyphics. Like, that's how old these are. And he's like, can you translate them? And he's like, I can try. And so like the professor's on top of that because Charlie thinks something is weird, which obviously it is. Like, your daughter's skin got ripped off and there's fucking markings under there, ancient markings. That's weird. In the meantime, Charlie contacts Charlie is like, he's in there with his daughter, and his daughter is like doing this weird clicking thing with her mouth. And after a while, he realizes like, oh, it's Morse code. So he like grabs a notebook and he quickly writes down the dots and the dashes. And then he goes downstairs and he opens Katie's old trunk of stuff and finds the Morse code decoder. And he finds out she's saying Layla over and over and over again. So he decides to call the detective, and he's like, hey, are you really going to help me? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, she's giving me a name. It's Layla. That's all I have. And she's like, did your daughter know a Layla? Did you know a Layla? Did a Layla try to contact you afterwards? And he's like, I don't know. So he has this huge, like, it's like a casket. And I think they bought it like it says that it's a trunk on the wiki. I don't think it's a trunk. I think it was a casket for like if they ever found Katie. And inside this giant casket is all these letters to the family. So he starts like tearing them open and actually like reading through them to see if there's a Layla anywhere in these. And he eventually finds one that he opens it up, and like the candy bars she had been given were called Tut's Treasures. And so the front of the card is like, you are sweeter than Tut's treasures. And he opens it up and it says like, I really didn't want it to happen to her. Katie was my best friend. Signed Layla Khalil. And so Charlie calls up the detective and he's like, Layla Khalil, which the detective goes to look into it. And there's like 7 million Layla Khalils. So then she like, he gives her like the stamp from the Egyptian post office. And so she like looks into that and he's like, so there's only these Layla Khalils. And so she's looking through the crime scene photos and she notices that nectarine. And so he's like, this one lives on a nectarine farm. So she's like, bet. So she goes there alone, which I was like, points for bravery, but negative points for stupidity. Cause what the fuck are you gonna go there and do alone if you get hurt? Like, what the fuck? She goes there alone with a gun, but still alone. Because, like, if someone gets a drop on you, you're fucked. So she goes there. No one seems to be home. She finds, like, the area where the mummy's, like, sarcophagus was sitting before they decided to move it. She goes back upstairs, and someone comes home, and it's Layla's mom. And she comes at the detective with a knife, so the detective shoots her. And you think she shoots her through the heart. She's, like, bleeding, and she's like, why did you do it? And then someone else walks in, and it's a younger woman, and so she takes off running. Detective takes off running after her. She runs to like this cliffside and starts unburying something, and the detective makes her show her what it is. And it's this box, and inside the box is this VCR tape labeled Katie. And so she takes this girl in and this VCR tape. And of course she watches it. And then she goes to the girl and she's like, what the fuck is on that tape? And she doesn't say anything. And she's like, say something. And so she opens her mouth and her tongue is half cut off. And so she's able to, like, if she tries really hard, she can speak. And so she explains to the detective, like, I tried to tell the truth once and my mom punished me. And so she was like, what is the truth? And so she, like, motions for, like, a writing utensil. And so she gets her a pen and paper or whatever. And she starts writing. And the detective reads it all and, like, freaks out and tries to call Charlie. But Charlie doesn't answer. She's like, I need to come see you ASAP. So as Katie is kind of like shedding more of her skin, quote unquote, it's not actually her skin. She's getting more and more powerful, or not her per se, the demon. And the professor calls Charlie back and is like, so I found out that these markings are about this demon named Nazmaranian, and this demon was like, before they even understood what demons were, what evil was. Like, it was just this thing, and it was a destroyer of families, and it loved to turn father against son and leave mothers to bury their families. And so you're like, oh. So now I get it. I see what's going on, because at this point, Maud has also been affected by this demon. It is starting to take over Maud. like, it's really creepy because Katie starts talking to her and she's like, you're my favorite. And Maud's like, you don't even know me. And she's like, tell me everything about you. And she's got her ear right up to Katie's door. And she's like what? And she goes, like, how your little piggies taste. And she sticks her tongue through the crack in the door and starts licking Maud's toes. And you're like, ugh, gross. So Maud tries to run away and the demon picks her up and brings her close to the door. And after that, Maud's like possessed as shit. Like, she and calls the teacher a cunt, which is like, again, the funniest thing ever. I would be a horrible teacher because if a student ever called me a cunt, I would have a really hard time being angry about it. Like, I would just think it was hilarious. Like, kids swearing is the funniest thing to me. Anyway, not the point. Charlie's like, we're not gonna tell mom what happened at school today when he picks them up. And so they get back to, they're like going back to the house, right? And as they're going back to the house, Abuelita is praying over Katie, and Katie, like, basically is, like, possessed as shit and, like, throws grandma around. She takes the rosary, starts choking grandma. And this is the scene that, like, I saw on Twitter that, like, I was like, man, I wish I hadn't seen that scene, but also, like, I'm kind of glad I did, because it was what was like, oh, okay, I guess I could go see The Mummy. It looks interesting, I guess. And then also hearing that the Evil Dead Burn trailer was playing before it kind of sealed the deal for me. So, that's literally the two things that got me to go see The Mummy. I didn't even see the normal trailer, but anyway, she, like, picks Abuelita up and she's like, don't worry, grandma, being dead is fun, and throws her out the window. And that's when Charlie and the kids pull up. Abuelita hits the car and is, like, bleeding all over the place. And then she gets dragged off the car, and you think by the demon, but no, it's fucking coyotes, and they're eating her alive. They just start eating her alive. And so the mom comes in and sees the window open. Katie's back in bed. She runs to the window and looks down and sees her own mom being eaten by coyotes. Which, like, that shit would fuck me up forever. Like, just my mom dying, period, would fuck me up forever. But watching my mom getting eaten alive by coyotes, fuck that. And it's like you get to see it for a second, which, again, this is one of the shots in the movie that I'm like, ooh. And, like, it's clearly CGI. Like, the wolves are clearly CGI. I keep switching between wolves and coyotes, because, like, I swear on me, mom, they did not use coyotes for the fucking... They're too beefy and, like, wolf looking to be coyotes. Coyotes are, like, scraggly. Anyway, they look scrappy. Anyhow, so, like, it's obviously CGI, and it's not, like, bad CGI, you just know it's CGI. So, like, that to me, like, I'm a practical effects person. I prefer practical effects 100 times over CGI. So, like, that was kind of disappointing, but also it was still really cool. So then they're having Abuelita's funeral, and they have her wake, and it's so funny because, like, two of her old lady friends are like, oh, I love that color on her, that lipstick color. It was really good for her, blah, blah, blah. And someone was like, yeah, it's too bad she, this has happened to her. And someone was like, oh, I heard it might not have been an accident. And it's like, ooh, church lady gossip. So then, like, you cut to Maud is sitting there and she's, like, pulling her teeth out at the table. Cause, like, for those who don't, like, have a good community, basically, like, in a church, how it works is if someone dies, people will, like, bring food to you. And usually it's, like, an excessive amount of food. So, like, they're having a wake and, like, the food is clearly provided by, like, everyone brought something. It's a potluck. And so she's, like, sitting at the table with all this different food in front of her and she's pulling her teeth out and she spits all this blood everywhere. Maud does, the youngest, and you're like, big vomit. And she's staring at this spot in the ceiling. And it's the spot where Katie had thrown up. And, like, they had cleaned it up, but the dad had, like, lifted up the carpet and it was, like, rotting there. Like, there was this, like, oozing, like, it looked like flesh pustules or something, like, in the floor, which didn't make any sense. So it's, like, buzzing and she's staring at this spot in the ceiling and it's, like, clearly rotting away. And so, Charlie, he, is watching Katie, cause they're, like, still scared she's gonna pull some shit, which, like, valid. And Sebastian goes to get him and is like, hey, mom wants you. So he goes down to talk to, his wife, and his wife is like, I don't want her here anymore. And he's like, that's fine. Like, I totally understand, but, like, this is what your mom would have wanted. And she's like, no, not my mom. Cause they're having, like, an open casket wake in the house. So she's like, not my mom, Katie. And he's like, oh. And you're like, Yeah, throw the man a bone. That's right. So as they're talking, Maud goes over to Maud's staring at that spot, and it starts opening up, and Katie's coming out of it, and Maud just smiles, and she's like completely toothless now. And that we had already established like Grandma has dentures, so she goes over to Grandma's casket, and you can see the little string for like where they sewed up her mouth, and she undoes it, and the mouth falls open, and she grabs her grandma's dentures and puts them in, and goes and smiles at her parents, and her parents are like, "What the fuck?" And then she starts attacking, Maud does. She starts attacking some lady. So as they're like fighting with Maud over that, Katie drops from the ceiling into Abuelita's casket. And like at first, I was like, oh my god, is she fucking humping her grandma? Because I will sign out of this movie so fucking fast if that's what's going on. Just the way she's moving in the casket kind of seems like that. But no, she's like eating the flesh of her grandma's neck, and like sad that that's so much better. But I was like relieved. I was like, oh, thank God that's what she was doing. Which, if a movie's making you, be grateful, like someone's like eating the flesh of someone's neck, like, I mean, like, props to the movie for like diverting and like all, subversion of expectation and all that shit. So she's like going ham, and then the casket falls over somehow, and Grandma spills out, and like the embalming fluid is like oozing out of her neck, and Katie just starts lapping it up, and Maud is like laughing. And of course, like, Larissa and Charlie are like, they're like, okay, this is like level 15, way beyond anything we can handle. What the fuck? So they tie Katie to her wheelchair. And at this point, like, Charlie already knows, like, this is not actually Katie. Like, this is a demon of some sort. So then, surprise, surprise, Detective Zaki shows up, and she's like, I found this tape of what happened to Katie, and I hate that I have to show this to you, but I have to show this to you. So, like, this tape is what really, like, this was, like, the part where I was, like, maybe a little triggered, because, like, they show, like, Katie is, like, tied to this basically like cross looking thing, and she's like, I want my mommy, I want my daddy, and she's just like being a little girl and who's terrified and afraid and everything. And like, shout out to the actress because she does such a good job, but also it's like really traumatizing if you've ever seen a kid in peril. So like, that fucked me up a little bit for a second, but I was able to compartmentalize and rock with it. So Layla's mom explains, this is our family's dark secret. We've been keeping this thing at bay for thousands of years. And she's like, this is the 85th sacrifice. So basically, and she says, like, an innocent child is best, but any live body will do. And what they have to do is transfer this demon from the thing in the sarcophagus to a new vessel. And she's like, it will use up that vessel. And once it starts using that vessel up entirely, it will get free, which is how it was able to kill her husband. So, in order to keep it from being, like, free, you have to, like, transfer before its power is, like, fully, like, whatever the fuck. And so, before it fully manifests, I should say, and is completely free of the rotting vessel, because that's essentially what it is. So they transport this thing into Katie, and the way it does it is, like, they're doing this chant, and, like, the thing, like, it's like an old man in this coffin. He vomits this black liquid, kind of like Evil Dead 2013 style, into Katie's mouth, like vomits it upward into Katie's mouth, because Katie is hanging over him, facing him. So he vomits up into her mouth, and then they put these wrappings on her, and then they put her in the sarcophagus, and they put more wrappings on her, and they like bind her hands and feet in the thing to the sarcophagus. And so, like, halfway through this, Charlie pauses it, and he's like, I don't want to know. I don't need to know. And the mom's like, I do. We need to know. And she's the one who ends up, like, playing the rest of it. While that's going on, Katie has now influenced, not Katie, but, like, the Nazmaranian in Katie has now influenced Sebastian. And she's like, he's, like, slamming his head against his bedpost. And she's like, hey, baby brother, you want to come help me undress? Which I was like, if it goes to some weird place like that, again, checking out of this movie. Does not, thank God. She's literally talking about, like, taking off the protective wrappings of her skin, which is still, like, that's disgusting. But not as disgusting as what I was thinking was about to happen, which I was like, again, just grateful that that's what was going on instead of what I thought. So anyway, they're doing that, and they hear like thumping and stuff, so the mom goes up to check it out. And she, like, they had been packing to leave before Detective Zaki got there. And so she goes upstairs and she notices something is off, and then Detective was like, oh shit, goes to help. And like there's like a sandstorm brewing now, and it's like coming around the house, which I love. Like that's like the mummy part of this whole thing. And so Charlie's sitting on the couch by himself at this point downstairs, and he hears something, so he turns around and it's Abuelita. She's alive, and she's like eating off the table like some of the food from the potluck and the wake and everything. And she's like, hey Charlie, want to taste me? And you're like, gross. And so he fights off Abuelita. Upstairs, Detective Zaki and Larissa are trying to get into the room. When they finally do, it is crazy. Like the shot of demon possessed Katie and like all these mummy wrappings and all this like sand kicking up is so fucking cool. I love it. It's great. So Detective Zaki gets bitten, or no, she gets attacked by Abuelita. Abuelita throws up a scorpion and makes Detective Zaki eat it. Detective Zaki kicks Abuelita. Abuelita's head gets caught in like between the staircases, like the bars in the stairwell. And so then Detective Zaki, the scorpion pokes its stinger out of her throat and back into her throat, which is like big time vomit, wanna die. And Detective Zaki reaches in and pulls the scorpion out of her own throat like a fucking badass, right? So in the meantime, Larissa is like, I gotta knock Katie out. So she goes and grabs one of the sedatives, and Sebastian is there with a baseball bat, hits his mom with it. His mom goes into the crawl space in the house, and they're like playing this cat and mouse thing where eventually the mom gets the sedative into him. So then Charlie decides to get back in the game, which, to be fair, Katie had attacked him at some point and like was head slamming him. So he was like kind of knocked out. And so the demon's looking at him, the Nazarenian, through Katie, and is like, I'm her daddy now. And he's like, fuck this, kind of a thing. So he gets Detective Zaki and he's like, do you remember the words? And she's like, yeah. And this is like, so they had an argument earlier. By they, I mean Larissa and Charlie was like, I know you blame me for what happened to Katie. And there was like a whole argument about it, right? So this whole time you're like, you know, he's being eaten away with guilt. So he grabs Katie and he tells Detective Zaki to start saying the words. He gets on top of Katie. He's holding her down. She's saying the words, which is kind of like stopping the demon, the Nazarenian. And he looks at Larissa, who's coming out of the crawl space, and he goes, I'm sorry. And Katie just vomits the demon into his mouth. And I'm like, slow clap, dad of the year. What a man. Like, let me just tell you, that's a man right there. And it's so great because it's kind of like the opposite of his character in Midsummer, who's like just shitty and like indecisive and just a fuckhead. And I'm like, good for him that he gets to play this character, Jack Reynor. Good job. Because it is so amazing. So Katie vomits the demon into the dad. And she gets all good. They put him in a casket, in the casket with all the letters. They put him in there and like quadruple padlock it with like chains and everything, and you go in the basement and that's where he's at, and there's just like writings, the protective writings all over the wall in the basement, and Katie's tapping on the casket, and the dad taps back, and she's like, he says he loves us. And so Katie gets to be like normal, and she's healing, and she looks healthy. And so Larissa calls up Detective Zaki again, and this is like really where the movie gets me, because let me just tell you, like, the Evil Dead movies don't really have good endings, right? Like, so far, the only casualty in this movie is Abuelita. The only confirmed casualty is Abuelita, right? So Larissa calls up Detective Zaki and is like, I need to talk to you about Charlie. So then we cut to, in Egypt, they're in a prison, and there's a lady laying on the bed, and the lady is fucking Layla's mom, right? Someone comes in with this little cart, and Layla's mom is like, you're late today. She gets stuck in the neck with a needle, and her eyes go wide. She looks up, and it's Larissa, and Larissa's like, you know me. You remember me. I'm Katie's mom. And in comes Detective Zaki with Charlie in a wheelchair, and they start saying the words, so you know, like, they're transferring the demon into this bitch, and they're gonna put her in the sarcophagus, and it's awesome. It's a great ending. I was, like, not expecting a happy ending from this movie at all, so I was thrilled, dude. I was shocked. I was thrilled. It was a good movie. I was like, this is 15 out of 10. This is amazing. And like I said, it's confirmed that it takes place in the Evil Dead universe, which just like everything clicks and makes sense. So, yeah, that was Lee Cronin's The Mummy. If any of that sounds good to you, go see it. Highly recommend it. Oh my gosh. I want more of these movies. I want more movies where it's like Evil Dead adjacent. I just love that. I love them. And I get a lot of flack from Evil Dead fans. It's usually like people who are fans of the original Evil Dead and they think Army of Darkness is the best out of the original three, which, like, no hate if that's what you think, but like, don't give me shit on that. Like, fuck. Don't give me shit on that. Like, I like the newer ones. I like the old ones, don't get me wrong. I actually have never seen Army of Darkness because I prefer like a more straightforward horror to like goofy shit, which, again, if you like Army of Darkness, no hate. Live your best life. But yeah, I want more of these. These are amazing. These are incredible. I love these types of films. Anyway, can't say enough good things about it. Like I said, the acting is great, the script is great, the writing's great, the story is great. It was a pleasant surprise for me, and it's a very big recommend. It might be my favorite movie in the last like 2 years. I think it's even better than Evil Dead Rise. No offense to Evil Dead Rise, and I love that movie. But yeah, thank you very much for listening. Appreciate you. I appreciate any second you give me of your time. So if you're here, you've listened through all of this, and thank you so much for that. I greatly appreciate it. If you want to give me a little bit more support, you can always like the video, comment on the video, share the video, check out my links to my other stuff. Follow me on those platforms and in those spaces. And I just hope you're having a good day, and I hope to see you around. Thank you so much.